Namaste. All the dignitaries and all of you are interested in critical thinking. Thank you, Navrachana, for having me again, because I have fond memories of talking about translation here 5 years back. At the outset, let me make one clarification that I'm not a cognitive scientist. I'm self-training myself a bit in that area, but that doesn't make anybody a cognitive scientist. I'll take about 40 minutes to share my very naive knowledge on this area. How about we change the preposition in the title of the conference from critical thinking in education to critical thinking through education? Because I am going to amplify what Professor Pratyush said in the welcome address on how do we problematize these terms, how do we look them very critically. To save time and for my own focus, I have prepared some slides and I'll walk through them. And please bear with these monkeys because they have taught us how to think critically. There's an evolutionary biologist called J. Bronowski who at length explained since when did we start thinking, and he explained that when we stood on our toes from force, it was the ice-breaking moment when we started thinking, and now critically. I believe we need to think critically because we are experiencing wisdom famine. We have been into the age of information, the age of knowledge, the age of skills, but we are now nowhere close to the age of wisdom. Every day our minds are hacked by artificial intelligence. Every day digital dictatorship is hovering, looming large on our thoughts. And we don't see people questioning those digital dictators. It has come down to the intimate zones wherein we used to think who we really are. So I think this conference is, it should be celebrated as the conference of the year because we are hitting hard where it hurts the most. So congratulations to Dr. Vaibhavi and everybody from this school and the BEd program who thought this topic it should be mainstream immediately. Second, why cognitive science? I've been interacting with teachers and into textbook writing, translating, designing curriculums. I think we are missing elephant in the lab. When are we going to make cognitive science the mainstream of education program? We have been looking at mind from different perspectives. For example, so far we have neurology looked at mind as brain and tried to collect the data from fMRI and EEG. We have AI that looks at mind as information processing unit. We have psychology that studies mind as behavior. We have linguistics that studies mind as language. We also have anthropology that studies mind as distributed cognition. But in all of this, as you can evidently see, that we are looking at mind from a very disciplinary perspective. It's monolithic, it's very narrow. Now it is time for a super science, which is the cognitive science that takes into account all these disciplines. And an amalgamation of all this put together can really help us understand not only critical thinking, but life in general. Because as we see how people are organizing their lives is very, very industry centric. You look at the compartmentalization of how we organize our lives, how many years we study, how many years we set up our careers and our retirement plans. It has gone into the hands of industry rather than in the hands of educational institutes. Now let me take you to the very heart of cognitive science. The basic design of the galaxies, of the universe, and the basic design of our brain is identical. They have been saying in our scriptures, Yatha Pinde Tatha Brahmande. It is so true. They have found out that these designs are identical, which means if you understand this 300-pound jelly between your ears, you will be able to understand the universe. So let us try to understand why this discipline is going to be game changer. 21st century is also defined as the age of neuro-enlightenment. This is a picture of somebody called Charles Whitman. And remember, he has been featured on the cover of Time magazine, which means he has done something radical. The year is 1966. This guy is from USA. He woke up one fine morning, took up the gun and shot his mother dead. He didn't stop there. He also shot his wife dead. He went all the way to Texas University and with his AK-47, he killed about 78 students and teachers. His firing didn't stop until the police came and shot him dead. From then started another investigation. Why did he do so? They met the relatives and interrogated, asked questions. Everybody reported him to be a gentleman. Then why did he kill so many people? They found his diary. And in the diary, this guy left a clue. This is what he wrote. I've been having fears and violent impulses. I've had some tremendous headaches. I'm prepared to die. After my death, I wish an autopsy on me to be performed to see if there is any mental disorder. And that guy left a $3,000 check also. So family members performed the autopsy. And this is what they found. That guy had a massive tumor in amygdala. All of us know that amygdala is responsible for our emotions and feelings such as fear, rage and aggression. Now this is very interesting. Was that behavior intentional or was it an offshoot of a mental condition, neurological condition? Let me share another example of a pedophile. There was a lady, she remarried to a guy and she had a daughter, 4-year-old daughter from the previous marriage. After a couple of years, one day she called the police and she reported that please come and arrest my husband, he has turned a pedophile. Now all of us know that pedophile is a person whose sexual orientation moves from adult to children. Police came and investigated and they found that his computer was full of child pornography. Although he never attacked that little girl or no molestation, no such behavior, but just based on those computer videos, the wife got suspicious. He was taken to hospital. Brain scans were done. And what they found was this. Again, there was a lump in the area that decides a person's sexual orientation. He underwent a surgery, that part was removed, and that guy got normal. No crime was committed, no punishment was sentenced. Now that gave birth to another discipline called neurocriminology. and you see there are books available to read how criminal mind thinks. Of course, it's a dicey area because at times criminals want to commit all the crimes under the pretext of mental conditions. But thanks to the developments in neuroscience, that we can identify how criminal minds think. For years, we knew that there are departments, there are components, and there are parts of the brain responsible for certain activities. So it was a kind of modular approach. Oh, I'm sorry, it's not working. Recent studies in cognitive science have told us that no, it is not watertight compartments. It's modular. Any part of the brain is communicating with any other part of the brain. It is this connection that matters rather than the area. So, I'm trying to simplify all of this. So there are neurons, about 86 billions of them. There is something called neuron firing, how two neurons communicate. When learners learn something, there is this constant neuron firing happening in the brain. So these days, cognitive scientists, along with educationists, they are trying to map the brain. What is happening to students when they are learning Pythagoras or when they are learning grammar? Which area lights up? Actually, the methods of hacking brain have been here for quite a long. Previously, society's brain, they were hacked by stories and myths. Gradually, ideologies crept into. And we saw what happened in World War. But if you look at from cognitive perspective, it is brain hacking system. And today, our brains are being hacked. I'm using a very popular word, hacking, by cognitive science coupled with AI. Of course, there have been chemicals like tea, coffee, drugs to hack. And we know what happens during elections, how these chemicals are used. Now, we know there are trigger points in the brain, and it is human to know something and then to manipulate it. I think one of the key questions during this conference we should address is, why should we know something and why do we manipulate that same thing? Because if we want to reach to the age of wisdom, this manipulation has to undergo critical mass. People learn neuromarketing. There are books like this, Buying Brain, Understanding Consumer Behavior. So as I said, we have been hacked by shopping malls, by web series, by so many other aspects, by reward system, cashback. Hundreds of these things are there to decode the black box. Now I think the black box has been opened. YouTube says that 75% of videos that you watch are suggested by YouTube. Do you see something serious is going on? Your agency of thinking has been hijacked by somebody with remote controls in Silicon Valley. The question is, as Mr. Pratyush mentioned, when are we going to realize that this is a serious peril for nurturing citizens? If your thinking agency is hijacked by somebody you don't know, I think it is the most grotesque of violence, gruesome. Web series. See, I'm giving examples of how other disciplines are using neuroscience to understand human behavior and brain and manipulate it. As educators, if we don't, then someone else. If you remain absent in your home, someone will take it over. So, Game of Thrones is a web series that shook the world. The reason is they have used brain science, neuroscience. They have called up 1,000 people from different age categories, from different geographical and cultural regional background. They put up ERP helmets and made them watch this series. And they have calculated exact minutes and seconds. The time frame vary, and average attention goes down, or an average attention shoots up. And then they reshot, edited. So it is like a paracetamol now. You take a paracetamol and your headache is gone. Can we have textbooks which are like paracetamol? Because, as I said, if we remain absent, there are about 50 companies, 50 corporates which are providing online education through various apps. They are going to take position of a teacher. Recently I read a book and mark the title. It's by Neil from Australia. The title of the book is Should Robots Replace Teachers? Mark the title. It's not can. Should. Alright. 10 days back, Gujarat Samachar headline featured this. Neuralink. All the technologies enter our life either from war or from medical science. So Dr. Sanjeev from Stanford University thought how to operate a real mouse through a remote. He called up a mouse, right? Got him trained and implant a chip. That mouse was operated by a similar remote. Now that is the beginning of what you can expect. Brain-computer interface. When I am talking to you on February 15, 2024, there are brain chips in 40,000 US citizens. I'm not saying that these chips have been used to enhance brain performances, but they are used as medical aids. Like these chips are helping senior citizens who are suffering from Parkinson, Alzheimer's to live a normal life. But that's the catch. When something works in medical science, there are temptations to commercialize it. So Elon Musk and others, they have started this company to make chips. Now imagine a future scenario. In, let's say, first grade or KG, the admission day, when there are doctors present and they are asking to the parents, ma'am, which chip would you like to buy for your kid? Which board? So the mother would ask, okay, what is the offer? So say if you go for this IB, this is the offer. State board, CBSE, whatever. There could be private boards as well. We don't know. What is the offer? Offer is if you buy this chip, it includes curriculum from KG to MBBS. Imagine a 5-year little kid who is still learning a language, walks into the school and gives, a pointed stare to the teacher and says, ma'am, shall we discuss cellular biology? What would that teacher do? Imagine. This is the kind of noise that should grab our attention. We are also looking at neuroplasticity. Neuroplasticity has been a term which has been widely used recently. It says that our brain is constantly changing, structural and functional. In fact, even if your brain gets damaged, brain has an genuine intelligence to shift that function of your body to other part of the brain. They do it with
fMRI. It is quite futuristic, but in all humility, I would like to suggest the B.Ed program to start a lab with fMRI. It's going to be world's first lab of its kind, where students' brain are mapped according to their grades and subjects. It's very simple that people engage in cognitive tasks, fresh blood flows towards the brain area that are active during those tasks. For example, right now I'm speaking, so the area responsible for my speaking lights up and all the fresh blood would flow towards that area. However, there's a limitation to this machine. It can only tell us where an activity happens, not when. So for that we have another device, it's called event-related potential, that maps the timing of the activity and neuron firing. This is how it works. Imagine a fifth grader studies English textbook and he's or she's wearing a helmet. There's an amplifier attached to the computer software. That software is recording all the neuron firing and then is able to single out this particular red line. You'll be able to tell without asking to the student whether he or she has understood the sentence or not. If you have any doubt whether this is possible or not, ladies and gentlemen, look at this. Google is building a neural network, and the claim is by 2045 we will be able to connect our brains to the Google directly. Right now in this image you are watching 6 robots. They are picking up stuff, little things from one tray to the other. When one robotic hand picks up one thing, there are sensors. That hand judges the material, the size, shape, color, catches. Only one robotic hand has to pick up one thing. All other robotic hands learn that thing automatically because they are all wired to one system. It is like when you burn your finger, first finger, you learn it. This is what happens when you burn it. You don't burn all the 9 of them, right? Because everything is connected to one neural network. Now imagine, it is a 10th class. All 60 students are wearing ERP helmets. And the lecture is that of Pythagoras theorem. One student has to learn it, rest 59 learns automatically. What are you going to do with the grades? What are you going to do with gold medals? Give it to everybody. Give it to everybody. And the best, my favorite part is, there is not going to be a word called slow learner. Teachers will be deprived of using words like stupid. Happily so. Happily so. This is a helmet available in the market. I'm showing you the price. It's about 25,000. In India it is available. It shows your attention and your meditative state. You can see on mobile that right now your brain is focused or it is wavering or flagging. Imagine, after writing in humanity, this is the second most advanced technology to see our thoughts live. We have not been able to see our thoughts. It's only writing came into existence. We saw our thoughts on paper. After that, this is the technology that is taking over. This is in nascent stage, very infancy. Think about its 50th version. And there are experiments going on wherein thought language transfer. If both of us are wearing such helmets in future, there won't be requirements to use language, either spoken or written. Imagine that future. Connectome is mapping all the neuron firing. It's a huge thing. Trillions and trillions of brain connections which are mapped. Now the question is, if I make connector of your brain and transfer into computer, can that computer be you? And imagine this connector also looks after your feelings, because from your feelings to your faith, everything is part of your neuron firing. Are you ready? There's a cognitive scientist called Moran Sir from Israel. His article published in Nature that shook the world, and he said, now it's possible to see somebody's dream on screen. Yesterday was Valentine's Day. If you can see somebody's dream before proposal and after proposal, I don't know, you're walking towards a recipe for disaster or happiness. But now, looking at critical thinking, cognitive science together, friends, all of us are aware that there is a great disconnect between how we learn neurologically and how we deliver in the classroom. There's a disconnect. This disconnect has been deconstructed by, as I said, web series, people from corporate. They have done it. They have decoded the brain. Now it is for the teachers to do it. So I'm going to simplify. I'm going to show you certain parts of the brain that are involved in thinking and critical thinking. And let's see if we can use that knowledge in redesigning our curriculum. Okay. Critical thinking is often associated with reason, with problem solving. So the area of the brain that is responsible for this reason judgment is the dorsolateral cortex, and you can see that image over here. Now it's not important just to locate where critical thinking happens, but it is important to find out educational implications. With this knowledge, what should I do in my classroom? I think that is required. So, for critical thinking, we need to go for big and unusual questions. Questions like, why not to build a bridge on a river? We have asked what if questions. Now ask such questions that require problem-based curriculum and phenomenon-based learning. We know Finland has done great work in phenomenon-based learning. That is, I think, where all the disciplines learn. And that is where that part of the brain light up. Secondly this is very interesting. We have something called default mode network, DMN. When we are doing nothing, this network activates. Now, this is very strange. Usually, to light up this lamp, we have to put on the switch. But what happens when nothing happens to the light? So, in this sense, this brain is very unique. So, we have to look into this area and we have to do something about it in the classroom. So, mindfulness is the popular stuff going on, rightly so. There's a cognitive scientist called Rick Hanson, and he has done extensive research on Tibetan meditators. He has been to Montessori's and he has scanned brains of the meditators, and results are awesome. In fact, barring all the religiosity around it, if you look at meditation from a very scientific perspective, it can even quiet your wandering mind, the default network. That's why let us integrate meditation or different techniques, whatever name you would like to, breathing techniques or mindfulness, but some form of meditation should be there to enhance critical thinking. Also, informal sharing circles. There's an Indian cognitive scientist, recently retired, Swaminathan, from Cambridge. He did wonderful experiments on mirror neurons. They were found in Italy 2012. Mirror neurons are our empathy neurons. When somebody is in pain, why is it that we have tears in our eyes? Even on screen, when our favorite actors and actresses, when they cry, why do we cry? Or while reading novels, why? It is because they are located somewhere here, so they reflect that thing. They resonate with that pain. So, informal sharing circles help students be more empathetic. So, can we have about 20-30% curriculum fluid rather than everything prescribed? Because human mind, human brain doesn't follow prescriptions. And those of you who are into any senior positions, who are managing students during their noisy classroom know it. Can we have field-based studies? I come from a rural university located in the rural areas of Navrachana. Our 50% of curriculum is field-based. So students have to actually go to a village, live there for 60 days in a semester. And they have to empathize with the villagers, find out the problems, not as a problem solver, but as somebody who is one of the community members and look at it from the insider's perspective. Field-based studies is a great tool to enhance critical thinking. In fact, if you take your schools to visit where the workers of GIDC live, I think that is the area where a lot of innovation, raw innovation is situated. Second thing, we know dopamine. All of us are the Instagram, Facebook, Snapchat, cigarettes, wine, drugs. They are related to dopamine. But its neurotransmitter systems, it can be generated naturally in the classroom without any gadget, without any additional drug. Same with serotonin. I think we should run a national campaign for awareness of mood literacy. We know nothing about mood swings, particularly based on age groups. So cognitive science has a lot to offer in terms of mood literacy. So can we have mood literacy aligned with maths, mood literacy aligned with our timetable? How do we design a school timetable? Mostly I have seen that school timetables focus, first lectures are always maths, science and English. Because they are fresh, so just not dumb. No. It should be based on mood literacy and cognitive science. So usually, in a couple of schools that we work with, we have designed the school prayers with physical activities. Why not? Because if you ask a 7th grader to close their eyes for prayer, do you think that that's the state of meditation? And remember yourself being a kid, closing your eyes very forcefully and sometimes opening one of them. And there are teachers who are always watchful, who has opened eyes and they're taken to principal. Why not make it a little bit scientific and use these stuff and redesign our prayers? So in a couple of schools we have prayer as dance. So everybody dances for 10 minutes. That looks after the dopamine and serotonin. So basically it's a positive environment. Yeah. I have hard times pronouncing this. It's called acetylcholine system, which is for learning and memory. In USA, there are more students taking ADHD drugs than there are those who are suffering from ADHD. It is strange. People want to enhance their brain performance by drugs so that they can walk through this neoliberal economy. Can we have curriculum which also includes diet? Right now what we have is a method, there are techniques and there are tools of evaluation. We are not looking at student as an individual, we are looking him or her as a student only or as his intellect only. I think that all problems started with Descartes. The entire Western education system puts premium on thinking as if we are our brains. No. There is so much to us than just brains. So in future, we may have teachers saying, we are going to learn Pythagoras theorem tomorrow, please come having 2 bananas. Because that will activate your system. I am putting it very naively, but I know it's very important for all of us to realize that this is a field worth exploring. Okay, so what is the educational implication? We need to design instructional methods that stimulate curiosity, active participation, meaningful learning experiences that can enhance. This is what NEP tells us. This is what early childhood care education tells us. But somehow, I don't know, we are failing NEP in a big way. We are in a rat race of making kids learn how to read and write as early as possible. As early as possible. So if it's 2.5-year kid, he should learn how to draw something and write in a cursive way. Why? Have we checked the cognitive science of writing? At what age should we teach writing? What are the empirical evidences that suggest that age? Unless we do that, we will have future problems. Oxytocin, yeah, so as they say, प्यार कभी दिल से नहीं होता, oxytocin से होता है. So social bonding, again I'll go back to what Professor Pratyush was saying. I think that is missing. We have been looking at classroom interaction only as a way of transaction. Even the words we use in education have been from corporates or from military. Pardon me, but look at the word strategy. Is it originally from education or from war? It's from war. So I think somebody should do an extensive research on the terminology used to design curriculum. Techniques, it's from industry. It's not originally from education. In education, if you look at, we should use different words to rewire our brains around the systems. So teamwork, communication, informal sharing circle, cooking together, traveling together, staying together, these are the ways of bringing them together. There's a book called Our Common Future. The first line of the book reads like this: we know how to die together, we don't know how to live together. We don't know. And that's the problem. We have entered an era of extreme individualism. Extreme individualism is I, me and myself. That is going to create havoc to the environment, to our mental well-being. That's why we should look at critical thinking through education that takes into account emotional well-being. How problems are solved. As I said, critical thinking is always associated with problem solving. Which problems? First, industrial. First, we want to solve industrial problems. So, most of the students in higher education, in the premium institutes, they want to build the apps for Apple and they want to code for Google. In our university, we are building smokeless chula, so that the lady who is sitting beside that chula, her lungs are taken care of. I think there are two ways of solving problem. One is the algorithmic way. You design algorithm and software and app and chatbots. That's the way. Second is something that is there. It has been here for ages. It's our local wisdom. It's our individual gut feeling. Okay, it's that eureka moment. It's that insight. So scientists, cognitive scientists have been studying this. So they have realized that whenever a problem is presented, in order for the insight to occur, you need to have a proper representation of the problem. The mind or the brain should understand that representation. Then it should put the pieces together, make meaning out of it, and then the eureka moment happens. Which part of the brain looks after that insight? So we have a semantic memory. I think Javed Bhai and the people who are into semiotics and semantics can better talk about it. But have you ever realized that there is an apple and orange on the table? How is it your brain is not like getting confused between colors of these two fruits? It is the meaning-making sense that we have. So in order to enhance this meaning-making sense for critical thinking, we need to have Lego method, the Lego story. Giving students, particularly in early age, lot of language tasks. For those of you who are teaching science and maths, please help us correct their spellings. Sometimes it often happens that science and maths teachers, they tell students that your concept is okay, it's okay if your spellings are incorrect. No, that's not good. Because that's related to their meaning-making sense. Lego toys, most of us have played with them, or our children are playing with them. When Lego toys were built, previously there was no sale. People were buying. Why? Because there were no manuals. What to do with this Lego? But children who were playing with Lego, their critical thinking was great because they were open-ended. You can build anything and everything out of Lego. But in order to increase sales, they have prepared manuals that with this step by step, you can build a car, you can build an aeroplane, you can build XYZ. Similar thing we are doing. We are suggesting steps, we are giving user manuals during our classroom deliveries that actually hampers critical thinking. So, can we go for less prescribed curriculum, fluid curriculum? This is the case I would like to make. Let us have a fluid curriculum, wherein teacher, a competent teacher, a teacher who is by choice, a researcher teacher, a reflective practitioner has that onus to design activities around that fluid curriculum. By the way, Lego in Latin means I put it together. I think that kind of Lego education is what we are aiming at. Last 5 minutes. To my limited understanding, learning critical thinking or teaching critical thinking from a utilitarian perspective is an intellectual violence. Please be careful. Let's not run workshops that allow students to use critical thinking to make money out of it, to build more industries out of it. Industries that harm environment and individual and family peace. Think about it. So, the crossroads of my title, these are 4 crossroads that I would like to propose. If critical thinking has to happen through education, it should meet all these 4 together, not in isolation. First is consciousness. Right now, one area that artificial intelligence is still struggling to decode is the area of consciousness. That we know we exist, but computers don't know that they exist. If we can decode that, if we take into account consciousness, if we make students more conscious of who they are, I think we will do great service to the future of this planet. So I request everybody to look at critical thinking from a very broad spectrum. Second is cognition. Third, character, and fourth is community. To put into perspective, the responsibility of education is to make students use critical thinking so that they can, number 1, understand who they really are and make meanings. There's a professor of cognitive science in the University of Toronto called John Weverick. he has coined this word. He said, right now we are into meaning-making crisis. We don't know how to make sense of what we eat when we sleep. I think two things we have not, I don't know how, but we have lost the sense of what to eat and when we sleep. Isn't it? Because every night, 13 to 30, and now the upper limit is not decided, everybody is up with their eyes open to see reels, to like, share and subscribe at the cost of their heart. Last 10 months we have seen under 30 heart attacks increasing in India because we are becoming a sleep deprived country. So do we know what we do, who we are, how we study, what we eat? So that consciousness has to happen. Second is weigh our thoughts. So that's why they say that don't believe everything you think. Because your brain is a perpetual like a thinker that shoots random thoughts. And sometimes we get carried away by that and we take whimsical decisions. So I think what to think is an area that brings in ethics as well as cognitive science into the picture. Character. Character has been limited, at least in our country, just to the body. I think there's more than that. It's all about integrity. Right now you walk into any industry, you ask the CEO, what kind of employees do you crave for? They don't say efficient. They don't say gold medalist. They say we want employees who have integrity, who have commitments, who put their needs over their desires. How do we teach this? To put our needs before our desires. Because desires are biochemicals. They so far, history stands witness to the fact that desires have created wars. So that's why character comes into picture. I don't know, previously schools used to give character certificate. Now I don't know, still if they do, it's good. But somebody should also give character certificate to schools. Yeah. Fourth is act for the larger good. As I said, when we act for the larger good, we are really using critical thinking. It's extension of your identity. My identity is limited to my skin, which is a very narrow way of looking at who I am. But when I say my identity expands to this entire hall or maybe this town, I won't be able to think anything ill about all of you all from this town. So I think these four things, these four crossroads should resonate, and it will, I'm sure. I've looked at some of the titles of the speakers. They will resonate with what we are talking right now. If you are already not in Navrachana and other parts of the state and country, please prescribe these two books in our curriculum for all the teachers. Teaching with Brain in Mind, one of the classics, and Neuroscience. If somebody can write a book on neuromarketing, consumer behavior, it is high time that we the teachers, we write book on neuroteaching. Otherwise, thank you. And forgive me, but when I've been reading about cognitive science education for a decade now, I'm not seeing books written in Indian languages. Which means we are not thinking in Indian languages. So how about writing books in Indian languages so that you can help more number of people? Even today, statistically speaking, there are greater number of vernacular medium schools in India than English medium schools. So if you really want to help larger community, write and then maybe you can translate or you can go bilingual. So why is that critical thinking from a cognitive perspective? My last answer to this question is so that we can move from wisdom famine to wisdom abundance. I hope that this conference should help us reach to wisdom abundance. Thank you so much. Namaste.
Thank you, sir, for sharing your insights on bridging the gap between neuroscience and critical thinking and offering valuable inputs for educators, policymakers, and researchers interested in fostering a society that values and nurtures critical thinking abilities. Ladies and gentlemen, this brings us to the end of inaugural function. For formal closure, we have Dr. Vishal Bhadani with us. He is the convener of the present National Conference and Assistant Professor, School of Liberal Studies and Education. Passionately teaching and researching in the teacher education institution since 2004, he has published more than 25 papers in journals. He has conducted more than 20 workshops in diverse areas of education. Also, he is recognized as a peer reviewer in Scopus indexed journals. May I invite Dr. Vishal Bhadani to propose a formal vote of thanks.
Very good morning to everyone. So in the morning we have very good keynote speech. So you might have some questions. If you have some questions, you can devote few minutes. So may I request Nabil sir, if you have anyone of you have quick questions, we can take.
Yeah, please.
Excellent. Hello. Excellent talk. I just want to know how to practice mindfulness because our experiences come when we are trying to practice mindfulness and prejudice is also there. If you can.
Thank you. Thank you for the question. I'm not an expert in mindfulness. However, what a little I've read, mindfulness is all about intentional living. It's about being in the present. It's about being conscious of your breathing. So, if we can systematically design in our curriculum as well as our school timetable, college timetable, certain minutes for, let's say, breathing exercises, we will definitely make students more aware of the chaos that is happening in their heads. So one is breathing techniques, second is meditation, and third is there could be awareness programs of intentional living. For example, it never happens that somebody accidentally climbs up Everest. It takes intention to do that. So can we have workshops on intentional living? The two books that I suggested has a lot to offer, and particularly the book on Neurodharma. It has great activities for teachers. Yeah, anyone? I think.
Good afternoon. This is not a question, but loads and loads of appreciation and putting things in perspective, because I'm going to be reading a paper today, this evening, and there are so many things that you have explained. I am going to talk about it in classes, but I never knew the scientific linking of all those things. So it's brought such a great perspective. I've been writing profuse notes because it was like, yes, I do this, but I didn't know why I do this. So the why has come, it's come like a bolt for me. So thank you so much, and a request that I come from Navrachana schools, so we would like you to come and talk to our teachers also. I will get in touch with you, but आज मैंने public में आपको invite कर दिया है, तो आप ना नहीं कर सकते, okay?
Sure. I would love to come.
Thank you so much. You're really inspiring.
Thank you so much.
Thank you, Conspira ma'am. Any more questions?
Yeah, that's one thing.
Good morning, sir. Sir, actually you talked about mood literacy. So I just wanted to know, like, we don't really have any such papers which really speak about mood literacy. Like, we have different mood for different age groups. So how can we really analyze that? And mood swings and mood dependency on different kind of situation is really critical in our age group. So how can we really,
just know about that thing.
Correct. Thank you so much. I think it's a brilliant question and need of the hour. So during my talk, I suggested to set up a lab. It's going to be a huge help to the society at large. But there are books available on mood literacy. In fact, this is quite serious. The suicide rate, the way it is increasing, can be really lessened just by mood literacy. Because at Ahmedabad, Rajkot and Surat in Gujarat, these are the suicide capitals. The studies and suicide notes, people have done research on suicide notes. The worst form of suicide is when you hang yourself. Because to hold your suicidal thought till that process is on is something we need to contemplate. There's a book by Matt Haig. The name of the book is Reasons to Stay Alive. It's a personal memoir where he talks about how he came out of the suicidal thoughts, wherein the role of mood was pivotal. So I think for the students at large, we may ask, there are experts who can talk about the workshops on mood literacy. So we can make Vadodara a suicide-free town. How about that? Or even Navrachana as a first mood literate university of the country. I think that will be it. So there are books. Yeah.
Thank you for a very insightful, enriching and eye-opening address, Dr. Bhadani. What you said in terms of strategies, we still have to come up with a better term, education-related term. If we were to implement even some of these things, we have some very eminent trainers and educators here. I'm talking about schools, in a very tight schedule of maybe 8 periods or 7 periods that we all have in schools. There is so much pressure for completing content, for preparing students for the boards by the time they reach 10th and 12th. How can we make time on our school timetables to allow for all these skills to develop? That would be my question, and that would be a question that we as curriculum designers and policy makers need to address. Thank you.
Yeah. I think very practical, and the last part of the conference, implementation is really hard. So as I said, our prayers and assemblies should be used for this purpose. That's number one. Second is, we could have vacation. See, the idea of vacation is very strange in our heads. It is something like we have done so much of work, now we need vacation. Is it?
No.
The question is it? No. So in vacation, we could have booster workshops in, let's say, mindfulness, mood literacy, and during the prayer, if we go horizontally, week-wise, 10 minutes could definitely be found in any busy schedule. In any day, before board exams, government has even made it mandatory to run talks and workshops on how to take exams stress-free. Also, something we have not yet talked about is how to correlate cognitive science with evaluation. I think that's where everything boils down to. Only if you can change evaluation, other things will justify. Otherwise, all this workshop will mean nothing, because ultimately students will feel that, will I earn any mark out of it? No, I'm not interested. So I think more and more informal ways should be designed and curated. So let us put our heads together and find out informal ways of putting all this into proper implementation level.
Yeah, thank you, sir, for a wonderful session. And while you were talking about cognitive science and thinking, I'm a person who's interested into this area as well, and I've been conducting sessions on neuroscience and critical thinking. Also, there was a seed grant. Of course, it had certain flaws. I would declare that openly. But we discussed on on the idea of impact of critical thinking on neurotransmitter levels of the student teachers. And we could see that there was certain change in the neurotransmitter levels of the students in terms of serotonin and dopamine. Also, I would like to put up this thought that, as you rightly stated, there are certain things that we can bring into the curriculum, as you said, mindfulness, even exercising and all that, we can bring that into curriculum. The other part is there was a question with reference to mood literacy. Now, I think somewhere critical thinking, reflection, metacognition are important components I think that we all need to consider in our daily lives rather than just taking it in academic lives. What I would cite up over here is my personal example. There are at times days where we are just driving to the university and you just feel low. And there is no reason to feel low, but you just feel low. But at the same time, when you start asking yourself a question, what is happening? And then you realize there is nothing that is going wrong for which you have to feel low. I think somewhere that reflection, that questioning mind, that self-assessment that we can do for ourselves can add a lot of insights into what we are doing. So somewhere critical thinking can help even organize your thoughts. I mean, there is a whole structure of critical thinking that we can consider that can bring us to organization of thoughts, because there are at times thoughts which are very fragmented and we do not know where to connect and what to do. So I think one aspect that we are, I think there can be a lot of deliberations to think about this, but I think critical thinking as a complete framework is what we can think about. The other part is, as we have done a smaller research, and I think, I don't know how to discuss and go about it, but that also could be thought of, since it can make an impact on neurotransmitter levels, we could go ahead and think about on those lines also. Thank you so much for that wonderful session, because very few people are talking about this area, and I'm very happy that you have come out with this advice. Thank you so much.
Last, I would like to mention one book to all the teachers and students who are here. The name of the book is Single Tasking. I think in last 300 years, under the Western influence, we have become more and more ambitious and multitasking. It is impossible for the brain to multitask. Remember this. At a time, you can focus on one thing. That's why they tell us switch off your phones and focus on driving. That's the reason. And it also affects mindfulness and mood literacy. So we need to practice monotasking, single tasking. Everybody should read that book, and probably we can have workshops on single tasking. So that should help.